Hey everyone, this is Joey Yap here, and welcome to another episode in Forge in Fire. Thank you so much for joining me today, and it's going to be a very interesting session here, I'm sure, because many people, especially in the metaphysics community, are looking forward to having an understanding of how metaphysics and, well, as you know, COVID-19 can relate, or how can metaphysics understand a little bit more about COVID-19. So a lot of questions about health has been going on in the metaphysics community, and this will be a great opportunity for some of your questions here to be answered. Okay, so if you're joining me for the first time, this is what I need you to do. If you're watching this on Facebook, please go ahead and click on the follow button to follow this page, because we have a lot of interviews coming out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click on the subscribe button and then click on the bell icon to get notified, because there will be a lot of such interviews coming out under the Forge in Fire series, where we will be interviewing notable people, right? People in the health, business, investment arena, so that you guys could get a glimpse into, what you can do to prepare, and more importantly, to thrive in, challenging times such as this. We all live in a unprecedented era right now, right? No one have experienced a pandemic of this sort, where the entire world literally is been locked down. Okay, so right now the best thing to do is to enhance our knowledge, enhance our ability to take care of ourselves. And we shouldn't only just focus on wealth aspects, because one of the greatest wealth, as I'm sure you would agree with me, is your own personal health. And this entire pandemic thing is attacking health. And so I think it's extremely timely right now for me to have this very special guest to come out here to actually talk about, aspects that are related to health, especially from the Chinese metaphysics perspective. I want to introduce you guys to Dr. Octavian Sperna. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's a medical doctor practicing emotional acupuncture for 20 years, and he's teaching this subject for almost 10 years now. And he's also a practitioner of Bazi, Feng Shui, and Qigong. I met him in my classes, I think in Singapore and Malaysia, and almost in all my metaphysics classes. And I found that his knowledge of particularly health through metaphysics and TCM very profound. And he has shared the stage with me a couple of times, sharing his valuable knowledge to our students. And I thought that this is a great time for me to actually invite him to the general public who want to get a perspective on how metaphysics can understand COVID-19. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Octavian. Hi, Dr. Octavian, how are you?
Hi, Joey. I'm glad to be here. I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time today. What time is it in Romania right now?
It's about nine o'clock
9 o'clock in the morning,
in the
right?
morning. Yes, in the morning.
Right.
Yes.
And tell me, many people think that Malaysia and Singapore are the only two places that are in lockdown. What's happening in your country right now?
No. The whole of Europe is in lockdown.
Right.
We've been in lockdown for, I don't know. I think I kind of lost track. I think 3 weeks or a month, something like that.
3 weeks. We are now fifth week right now here in Malaysia, and I think in Singapore they're going all the way to the June 1st. Okay, but this is a good thing, right? This is actually a good thing. Do you not think so?
Definitely. I mean, from a Western medical perspective, it's a no-brainer. You need this. It's
Right.
obvious. Yeah.
Right. Now, for the benefit of many people who are meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Because you're a doctor, both Western and Chinese TCM as well. So give us some background.
Well, my day job, let's say, what I do most of the time during my work day is emotional acupuncture.
Right.
Basically, the term emotional acupuncture is a term I invented because up to the 1950s, acupuncture used to see the whole human being, like mind, body, spirit, emotions, as like one whole. Like, for example, how we see it in our metaphysics classes. But then the communist regime came, and all these abstract ideas about the soul, the emotions, and all that were put aside. So everything got focused only on the body, which is why nowadays people, when they think of TCM, they only think of the physical part of TCM. But historically, 99% of the time, it's been an integrated thing. So this is I've had the grateful an opportunity for which I'm grateful to study this kind of emotional acupuncture style, which also integrates that. Actually, this started when I was 16. I got a scholarship in England for 1 year, and I had no connection to acupuncture then, except for the fact that ever since I was 14 years of age, I was fascinated with Chinese metaphysics.
Right.
In a country where there was no background whatsoever, my family had no background whatsoever in that. I think at that time there was only one book on the whole market talking about this, and that was a translation of an American book. And
Romania you're talking about, right? This is Romania.
Yes. This is when I was 14. So I became so fascinated with it that, for example, I started doing Qigong exercises that were in the book.
Wow, okay.
But I was the weird one out because nobody knew what I was doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I was fascinated by it. Anyway, 2 years later in Britain, I got this scholarship, and I went there on a scholarship, and I realized that the college that I was studying in was offering work experience in acupuncture, and I thought, that's an interesting opportunity for me to get closer to what I really am in love with. If you ask me why I was in love with it, because I didn't know anything almost about it, but I just felt a very buzzing attraction towards it. So anyway, I got connected to this guy who was an acupuncturist. The college arranged for me to do work experience, and he became my.
That was in England.
Yes, this was in 1999. Yes.
Right. Okay.
And we became kind of a master and apprentice kind of thing, and he taught me, and I was able to do my apprenticeship with him for the year there. And obviously this was not enough for me to learn to practice, but I knew enough to be very sure that this is what I want to do. So then I came back to Romania.
One thing is really strange, I think, for a lot of people here who are watching this right now, because we're watching it from Asia. You're obviously a Westerner, and you're doing acupuncture, right? And doing it really, really well. So so this is the first. I think what goes on in people's minds right now is really, can they learn this? Because they always think that it's not possible to do something as complex as acupuncture, and you did it. What is your recommendation for them? Is it possible?
It's definitely possible. I mean, it's if you can have an analytical mind, if you love to explore, if you're curious, if you have a thirst for knowledge, it's open to everyone. Acupuncture is being practiced all over the world. Metaphysics are being practiced all over the world. There are no boundaries. Yeah, and I actually I get this pretty often. Every now and again, I get patients who call my clinic and ask, they ask about acupuncture, and they ask, well, is Dr. Octavian Sberna Chinese? And the name itself gives it away. It's a Romanian name,
Right. Well, and the Chinese, nobody knows.
And I ask them, do you think that just by being born in a country you actually automatically learn it? No, you don't. You
have to go learn it like everybody else.
Yeah, right? Obviously, yeah.
I need to point this out that Dr. Octavian here has made an effort. I mean, his desire to learn has brought him all the way to. Was it the first time I met you in Singapore, or was it in Malaysia?
Yes, correct. Yes, in
all the way throughout for the many live events that we were running, right?
Yeah.
When was that?
Singapore was in 2018. That was the Feng Shui Academy.
Right.
And last year I was pretty much half of the time in KL, going in and out to your courses. Yeah.
Right. And now you have incorporated a lot of metaphysics into your original knowledge of TCM and Western medical practices, right?
Yes,
So
my quest actually began this way, because I heard of you in the following way. I was at various international acupuncture conferences, and there was this buzz going around. It's like everybody was talking about this unicorn. There was this style of acupuncture that was using what people were calling stems and branches. So it was like a stems and branches style of acupuncture. So it was fascinating at the time because everybody knew through their fundamental training in acupuncture that, of course, when you talk about energy and body and all that, you do take into account the body clock and time, and but taking this to the level of Pa Zi was something that was fascinating, and at the same time nobody was able to really teach it. So I went to numerous courses, paid a lot of money to learn this, and nobody really understood it, or I couldn't find anyone. So at some point
that's because you asked really, really deep questions. I remember you were asking many
yeah
questions.
yes
But that's good because it shows you're thinking, you're
yes
deep thinker.
yeah. So what brought me, because when I came across your courses through a friend, I realized, oh my God, we're talking the same language, but we're coming from this, it's like different members of the same family coming together. And I really think that, what I want to focus on and what I've dedicated a lot of time into researching is reuniting the TCM part, the medicine, the Eastern medicine, the Chinese medicine part with the other branches, because we have the same fundamental principles, the same fundamental laws.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Good job. You did that. Right. So now, of course, today we want to talk about COVID-19 from the perspective of Chinese metaphysics, which I think everyone here wants to know. So in brief, we all know that there's no such stems and branches specifically already stated in the past about COVID-19 because it's a new discovery. But from your perspective, in terms of energy-wise and metaphysics-wise, how do you see this?
Well, in terms of the physical part, yeah. So if we talk about how Chinese medicine interprets, let's say, a kind of flu, because from the energy perspective, it doesn't really matter if it's COVID-19 or if it's a flu or anything. You're actually much more focused on diagnosing what the patient has.
Right.
So it would be translated as, for example, heat in the lungs, phlegm in the lungs, blood stagnation. Now, these are all technical terms, but they are technical terms derived from Chinese medicine. And I think it's important to know that it's not the same kind of thinking as it is when we say, Western medical diagnosis is COVID-19, because you can have 10 patients with COVID-19, and from the Chinese medicine perspective, they may have different diagnoses.
Right.
And this is what enables different approaches and different treatments, even though technically from the Western medical part, it's the same disease, but from the Eastern medical part, it's different, because with Chinese medicine, there's an interaction between the energy of the disease and the energy and the constitution of the person.
Right. Okay.
So that explains the different outcomes. That explains how we go about preventing it, understanding it, and all that.
Right. Now, from the perspective of metaphysics, of course, I think from Eastern medication, they always like to treat the root cause and strengthen the foundation so that it is harder to get this type of illness, right? We classify under the flu, but if the foundation is strong, even at the presence of other people who are sick, it is harder for you to get sick. Am I right with that principle?
Yes, you're very right. In Chinese medicine, we would be thinking of 3 lines of defense, 3 layers of immunity. So it's like, sorry?
Tell us about that. Let them learn something.
So people can think about this as in, it's a fortress. Yeah. So if imagine you're defending a fortress against an attack. Now, obviously, the first line of defense is the soldiers on the walls, defending the fortress. Now, that would be the lungs in this case. From the Chinese medicine perspective, the lungs are responsible with defensive qi, or wei qi, as it's called.
Right.
So one of the things that could be used to strengthen this layer of immunity is to make sure that we strengthen our lungs. Now, how can that be done? Well, first of all, we need to understand what weakens them. So we can in Chinese medicine, we can see all organs from a layered perspective. So even though we're talking about the organs of lungs, we don't refer only to the physical part called the lungs.
Right.
There's the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect, and any one of these can strengthen or weaken the organs. So, for example, physically, the lungs can be weakened by, let's say, if you keep smoking, and then the structure of the lungs is going to modify. So that's a physical modification of the structure. That's obviously going to make you have lungs that are not functioning at full capacity. Right. Emotionally, the lungs are associated with sadness. They're associated with grief. They're associated with emotional trauma that has been so strong that people actually become disconnected. So
a lot of metal energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for those who are familiar with the metal element, this is common sense. But for the large public, these are the emotions that we would be looking at. Because, and how can you see? Well, for example, if a patient comes into the clinic, I pay special attention to the words that they use. For example, because metal is also associated with righteousness. So people think that it should be, things should be. The word should, it implies that things are not as they should be, and they should be different, right? So this is very, very typical with lungs, because lungs are also associated emotionally with injustice. Yeah. So people who are especially sensitive to injustice are actually prone to lung disease, because that's a lung malfunction.
Right. So the energy that they show that they're lacking emotionally would obviously in the long term lead to that sort of problems. And so one of the ways that you would recommend is for them to change their emotions. If they could manage at least their emotions, that actually gives them a better chance of getting better health. Am I right on that?
Yes, exactly. That you're exactly right. Yeah. The first step, because obviously that's easier said than done. The first step is to first acknowledge that there is such a connection, and that being focused on one thing. Whenever you see a person focused on one thing, having the same verbal things, having the same things that tick that person off, that means that there's an emotional imbalance there. That the emotions are, emotion is like energy in motion. And just like in any other form of metaphysics, the key is qi flow. So we want emotions to be flowing. There is no good or bad emotion. We can talk about what is appropriate to the situation. So, when we talk about sadness or grief, is it appropriate to feel that when a relationship has ended or somebody dear has died? Yes, it is. Is it appropriate to keep thinking about that, even though that's happened years and years and years ago? No. Right.
I see. That's good. I think this is an understanding that probably a lot of people are not so used to, because if they have a headache, they'll just pop some pills, right? So you're obviously giving them an insight to how the emotional side causes this sort of problems. And I think in some ways that is also one of the main issues that cause cancer, right? There's always an emotional flaw somewhere, which they don't realize, because lack of awareness is obviously why they can't change it in the first place. And we talk a lot about awareness. And so over time, that emotions becomes the negative energy that causes the growth of cancer. Am I right on that?
You're spot on. Actually, when we think about cancer, there are actually Western scientific studies that have proved that, for example, the rate of cancer in people with depression is significantly higher. So there's Western medicine acknowledging the link between emotions and cancer in this perspective. From the Chinese perspective, you can actually see it even more accurately. For example, I was saying, the lungs are connected to defensive qi. Now, we know that actually the body has the ability, has the cells, has the immunity to destroy cancerous tissue. The big question is, why does it not do that? Or actually, even more accurately, why does it stop? Because a lesser known fact is that ever since we're born, actually, even in the womb of our mother, we keep developing cancerous cells. It's just that the immune system is fighting and killing them off. And it's not a tough fight. It's not like fighting an infection, nowhere near. Yeah. So it's easy prey. The question then becomes, why does it stop at some point and it allows that cancer to develop? Now, the answer from the Chinese perspective is that some things are so painful that we shut them off. And when we shut them off, we take our awareness away from that, because we want to be shielded from the pain. But the awareness in Chinese metaphysics is, in Chinese medicine, is associated with the heart, which is the emperor. And it is the emperor's job to direct the imperial army being the lungs, right? So it is basically the awareness of the heart which directs the immune system. So things that we bury down, there's a saying, emotions buried alive stay alive. Yeah. So this is, for example, the genesis of cancer. Yeah. For example.
Right. That's a good way to see it, I think. So for ordinary people, right?
Yeah.
How do they start practicing something from the perspective of healing on their own right now, just to strengthen their immune system? Because it's the most important thing, which is the discussion right here, right? If they have stronger immunity right now, generally they will have less risk against the COVID-19, correct? And even other forms of illness. Is there something they could do?
Yes. So, for example, talking about this first layer of immunity being lungs. For example, I was talking to my patients during this lockdown, and I was giving them some breathing exercises. But before, beyond the exercises, I think my clinical experience has shown me that emotions are far stronger in generating any disease or any vulnerability than the physical aspects, because we live in a modern world. We're not that exposed to the elements as in the olden days. So I think the best way for people to become more immune in this era, in this lifetime, the shortest way is to practice forgiveness and abundance and tolerance, because these are actually warming the lungs. They are counteracting the feeling of sadness, of injustice, and they have to be rooted in a sense of humility, of humbleness. When people think of themselves, this should be, I don't know, different in any way. Who are we to know? Who are we to say that these things should be different? Maybe there's a reason. Because if you look at all the hardships that people go through, obviously nobody wants hardships, but with the right attitude, you can actually use them to learn lessons. You can use them for self-development. A lot of people who go through hardship with the right attitude, they say that thing is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right. And from your perspective and experience, where people could come to terms with their emotional trauma, as you have described, they would be able to actually cure, a lot of their problems, right?
Yes, people often, most of the time people come for very palpable physical problems. And during our interactions, they actually discover that there's an emotional root. Now, the emotions are usually something that they're very aware of. They just didn't know that the physical problem that they had and that they came for is connected to their emotional suffering. So the bonus is that you can have both of them at the same time because they're linked. You can harmonize your emotions and get physically better.
And you can help them with acupuncture. That's the interesting part, right?
Yes, but make no mistake, just like everything, whether you use acupuncture or feng shui or Patsu or Qigong, I am a facilitator, right? Because when we talk about healing emotions and going deep down, there's that saying which says, there's no such thing as free lunch. People have to expect to work. They have to take responsibility for, yeah, exactly, for their part, for dealing with the emotions. Because yes, acupuncture is a great tool to help us process that and also to understand that. But the hard work is between the sessions, because emotions will come up. You have to process them. You have to make your peace with them. You have to understand something, get some lessons from there. And it's not easy. It's not for everyone. I'm not going to lie. It's a difficult process, because everything that is truly valuable will require work.
Requires work. I totally agree with that. Now, you guys, if you have any questions, I will be choosing the questions out of the comment section for Dr. Octavian. So go ahead and post it on the comment section. If you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and post it there. It'd be good to also include the name, because some of you are posting from the groups, which we don't see your name listed here. Go ahead and post your questions here. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can also post it on the comment section. I will, at the end of our interview here, Dr. Octavian is going to go through some of these questions and provide the answers for you. Okay. Now, one more thing, Kim, right? So are there simple exercises that they could do right now? Because everyone's afraid of COVID-19. So, and of course, in our perspective, if we strengthen the immune system, particularly to the lungs, we reduce the risk. Is there something we could do?
Yes, I'm going to share with you one of these exercises, and then maybe it would be wise to touch upon the second and third line of defense with immunity, because that would also very much help. So obviously the lungs are associated with breathing. One way of getting the qi to circulate, to move in the lungs, is deep breathing. Now, I'm going to share with you a very, very simple exercise which anyone can do. I'm going to show it first and then give you a little bit more details, right? So you can just hold your hand like that, yeah? And you cover one nostril, yeah? And then you slowly breathe in, up as much as you can, slowly. Hold it a bit, and then switch and breathe out the other nostril.
Everyone who's watching, please follow this.
Yeah. And then breathe in on the same nostril without changing hands. As much as you can. Hold it for a few seconds. Change. Breathe the other nostril. Breathe out the other nostril. Now, this is an exercise from pranayama. It's nothing to do with acupuncture. But in my view, I stop seeing boundaries between these healing systems, because we're all, talking about the same human being. So
this is energy.
Yeah,
different
energy. Yeah, exactly. So I don't care. Yeah. What this does is that anyway, air is very much associated with qi. Yes. And by breathing in deeply like that, and this is just one cycle, right? The full exercise, now this has to be adapted from one person to another. The full exercise can vary. So I would recommend that people do this for, let's say, 20 cycles like that, and do this every day for a period. But I have to warn people, there is this thing called a healing crisis. So basically what a healing crisis is when we've done something, we've changed something in our energy, and then the body has to process that. So in processing that, it's like, if you want to reorganize your cupboard, you're gonna first take everything out and then put it back in again. If you're looking at the intermediate stage, it's going to be a mess, right? Same with health. So it might be that there are some physical symptoms coming up. It might be that there's some emotional states coming up. That's just normal. If people see that that's too much, if it becomes overwhelming, just decrease the number of cycles that you do, or do them on alternative days.
Right.
So that you give a chance to the lungs to process that, to the body to process that. So this is very simple.
I think what you just shared is simple enough for anyone to do. That's the great thing about, simplicity is what people will actually take action on. When something is too complex, people don't want to do it. This is great. This is great.
I'm going to share with you another exercise, again, focusing on lungs, right? This is from Chinese Qigong, right? It's a very, very simple one. It's like a no-brainer. People usually laugh when they see it, but actually it gives a huge boost, right? So you just make your hand into a fist,
okay,
and you start, hitting your chest like this. Basically, it should be hard enough so that you feel the vibration in the whole chest area. Obviously, not hard enough for it to hurt. But if you do that for about 1 minute or two, trust your body. Your body will actually tell you. If you do that, there will be a feeling of refreshedness. Because again, the very simple mechanism is that you get your energy moving in the chest.
Right.
And from a Western medical perspective, you also have the thymus gland, which is just behind the sternum.
Okay.
And the thymus gland is associated with generating immune cells, white blood cells. So that's also a clear association with immunity. So that's a very easy thing to do. Again, you can do this like a daily exercise, especially
after the breathing exercise, right? After the breathing, we can follow up with this.
Yeah, before or after, it doesn't matter. You can do a daily routine by that. Yeah,
that helps. Yeah. So see, I think in so many ways, we can actually do something to help us strengthen the immune system, right? I mean, in feng shui, we can strengthen the house energy, right? Then the energy is stronger in the house, we are happier. And on the health perspective, Dr. David shared with you some methods to breathing and with strengthening the lungs. And if you understand a little bit more about the acupuncture and emotional healing, that you strengthen the internal side. And there's so many things that you guys can actually do to actually help against deteriorating health. And the thing is, with metaphysics, too many people are just focusing on getting things accurate, getting the art right, but they forgot that results are the most important. And I'm glad that you're here to share with us on this. Now, there's a third thing that you wanted to talk about. What was the third thing?
Well, the second and third line of defense. So basically, when it comes to immunity, the second line of defense is the spleen. Now, if again coming back to the analogy of the fortress under siege, when we talk about the spleen and stomach, basically the earth energy, we're talking about nourishment. We're talking about supply lines. So basically, the soldiers in the front line need to eat. They need to have their energy up so that they can fight. Similarly, what the spleen and stomach do is they enable the body to have enough energy to be able to get over this disease. And so basically, how do we do that? The spleen and stomach are very strongly associated with eating habits. And there are some very common things that people get wrong on a massive scale, because luckily in Asia, there's a big part of culture which, makes people have healthier eating habits occasionally. People don't exactly know why they're healthy. They just know that they're part of the culture. When you study Chinese medicine, you understand why they're healthy. So, for example, one of the principles is that you don't want to eat any cold food, especially in the morning. Because the spleen and stomach thrive on yang energy. The metabolic energy is yang. So especially in the morning where you're getting out of the yin part of the day, you want to boost that yang energy. So, the worst thing that people can do, and so unfortunately it's a very common practice, is to skip breakfast altogether.
Right.
or to eat like a raw salad in the morning. Yeah. Now, salad is fine, but you need to balance these things out also in terms of yin and yang. So if you're gonna eat too cold stuff, energetically as well as thermically, you're gonna mess up your spleen, and that's gonna have a bad effect on your immunity as well, because it will decrease the ability of the body to produce enough energy to sustain your immunity. So one thing would be, make sure you get a good breakfast. Make sure you don't get cold food for breakfast. A second one would be the earth element with the spleen and stomachs thrives on stability. Stability translates into routine. So we know that from Western medicine that the digestive system likes routine. What we learn from Chinese medicine is that it's not only about routine or the fact that there's a better digestion. It very clearly translates into strength, into immunity, into the energy to function. For example, one way to know that your spleen is not functioning right is if you wake up in the morning and you need coffee to wake up.
Yeah.
If you need coffee to wake up, basically you're suffering from what is called dampness, right? That's an accumulation of liquids, which is basically the spleen not doing its job. So unfortunately, there's a vicious circle there, because if you have that, you will not be able to eat in the morning. But you have to start small. If you're in that category, you have to start small and make sure that you eat at the same time intervals in the day. Now, I don't mean 2:05 sharp, but plus minus half an hour. Don't skip over meals.
So a healthy pattern and a routine is something that has got a lot to do with the healing process.
This is usually
much more holistic approach than just saying taking some tablets or pills, right? So
definitely.
That's what everyone's waiting now for COVID-19. Just give me the pills, right? So, but they didn't realize that there's so many things they could actually do to actually strengthen their immune system to block things out just in case, right? So this is great, right? Now, are you ready for some questions, Dr. Octavian?
Yes, I think maybe we should touch upon the third line of defense to finish that.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right, cool. All right,
so the third line of defense in the immunity is the kidneys. So basically, the kidneys. Now, this is it is rare for a disease to need the kidneys to really be strong. But when it comes to life-threatening diseases or very protracted diseases, it is the persistence, the perseverance of that water energy that has to keep the body going. Because if the water energy in the body is not functioning well, the body gives up. It does not have it's like, it is easy to break the spirit of the body. It is easy to do that, right? So one very simple, the two things that you can do to strengthen your kidneys. One is the Qigong exercise I'm going to show you. The second one is be very, very careful not to mess up your sleep. Because sleep patterns, if for example, you don't sleep enough hours or you sleep in an irregular pattern, that will draw upon the energy reserves of the kidneys. And unfortunately, it's very easy to get into a vicious circle, because if that energy goes down, basically, when the kidneys, we have yang energy and yin energy. Yang energy allows us to function. Yin energy allows us to relax and sleep. If you deprive your kidneys of this energy, you will get insomnia. And if you get insomnia, you will actually deprive your kidneys even more. So you get into this vicious circle in which it's difficult to break away from. So I'm just going to share with you a very simple exercise that you can do. Add that to the set of the others for the kidneys, right? So you do the hands in a fist like that.
Yeah.
And you just massage. You rub it. Yeah. So you rub the kidney area, the lumbar area.
Just the back of the just the back, right?
Yeah. Like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So basically,
Okay.
you rub it until you feel that there's warmth coming out. There's, it's like it feels very good. It feels like charging up, and it's a very good way to warm up in the morning. And after that, you can do this. Yeah. So
Right.
that's a light tapping.
Okay.
So you just tap lightly on the kidney area. Again, that tonifies the kidneys. That these are exercises from Qigong.
Right.
But they're very good to, they're very simple, immediately applicable things that people can do to boost their energy.
Wow, that's great. Wow. So we learn the breathing exercise, we learn the lungs, and we learn how to strengthen the kidneys. And we talked about, consistent, steady diet, healthy diet that starts in a consistent time routine that helps with the spleen, and that overall strengthens the three lines of defense. And by doing so, we stand a better chance to protect ourselves against not just COVID-19. In that case, it's actually against most flu and or other forms of disease.
Yeah.
Right. So because that's generally it's just that there's no specific element or identity for COVID-19 in Chinese medicine or in Western medicine they call this virus. But from the Eastern medical, there's no special description. Just like in feng shui, we cannot say which star represents this, but we can still generally enhance the feng shui of the home so that energetically you're strong and you feel better and your mind is at ease, your emotions are more balanced, and overall you get better health. So
I would add, I would like to add to that the mind and emotions are also a very important part. So what people can do, because again, as I said, it's about qi flow. If we look at old age as it is translated in Chinese medicine, old age is associated with the stagnation of blood. So basically, first the energy stops flowing and then the blood stops flowing. So this translates into rigidity, into fixed ideas. So when we're in a crisis like we are now, I think the attitude, if we are to single out just one thing that is the most important, I would single out attitude, because this is the time to flow with the fact that the world has changed. It is not the time to, just linger in there in the house and wait for this to be over and, just pace up and down. Oh, how long are we still going to be in lockdown? So the attitude is, what can I do? How can I adapt? How can I change to do something?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that sharing, Dr. Octavian. So there's so many questions here. I'm going to pick a few that are interesting, I think. And they're all interesting. I'm just going to pick something here. Okay, so here you go. This is from Janine. Jane, you can see it on the screen as well. How do you treat emotions with acupuncture? I'm a hypnotist and have always been curious about acupuncture and emotions. The first time I saw an acupuncturist, I asked him to make me cry, and it worked. Can you make someone cry?
Well, yes and no. I mean, acupuncture is not a circus number. The idea is that acupuncture deals with energy. Emotions are energy. The physical part of our body is also energy. The mind, the spirit, they're all energies, right? So again, people who have heard of acupuncture have usually heard and associated it with the physical part, but emotions are just as much part of our body than the physical. The approach in metaphysics is that they all flow into one harmonious whole. It's not like separate, right? So definitely you can treat emotions with acupuncture. The idea is that when the energy flow is adequate and it's not too much, not too little, the quality of the energy is good, the emotions will be balanced. What does it mean that they'll be balanced? It means you will show the appropriate emotion in the circumstances, right? So for example, let's talk about the COVID-19 thing, right? Let's take fear, for example. People don't want to be fearful. Yeah, they don't like that. But bearing in mind what I just said, is it adequate? Is it appropriate to feel some degree of fear? Yes, I think so. To not feel fear in this context would be equally abnormal. The thing is that what we want to do is to not become panicked or
Yeah.
paralyzed by fear.
Over fearing is the problem. Little bit of
Yeah,
fear saves us from more trouble.
exactly. So the idea is to use that fear in a productive way. Yeah.
Right.
So acupuncture, what it can do is it can move the emotion, it can move the energy if it's become stuck. And for example, if people have repressed some sadness there, that means that they didn't actually release the sadness at the right time. Yes, it can trigger, crying. It can, yes, sure.
I see. Okay. And here's another question from Yasmin. This is on a YouTube channel, so do you ask for their birthdays now that you know Bazi, and does seeing their Bazi help you diagnose them better than before?
Yes,
Great
I
question.
think yes. Obviously, this is something that it's become part of my norm, and I'm actually working right now on, as I said, coalescing the Bazi and Feng Shui and Qigong part into the acupuncture part, because I think I'm very close to translating acupuncture points into hexagrams and into jiazi. So
Yes. Very high level.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is someone from our group. Unfortunately, the name doesn't appear, but the question is valid. Anxious and anxiety can really set me off, and I need to control this feeling and let go. So maybe he or she is asking how we can do that from your perspective.
Yes, anxiety, in terms of feeling that things are not stable enough, is an earth problem. Anxiety can also come in a different flavor from the kidneys, which is like fear. Yeah. Anxiety can have, many roots, many different flavors, and according to flavor, it can come from one organ or the other. If the question is, can acupuncture help? Yes. I just want to point out that, like with everything, there needs to be commitment, because it's not like, some people have the wrong attitude. They come into the clinic and say, okay, do me, it's like, all my responsibility was come make an appointment, be here, pay you, and that's it. And you have to do everything else. No, you're a facilitator. So yes, we can help with anxiety, but the process means exploring how that came about, what triggered it, and working with it. Yeah,
it's a holistic approach, not just come and do me, right? So
exactly.
It's the same thing that someone comes to get a reading. I used to, when I first started my career, people come and say, read me, right? So it's like they're waiting for an astrological performance, right?
Exactly.
So astrology is not done like that. It's designed to help you solve a problem. You got to come with a purpose.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm glad this question was asked. So here's another question. I think it's very interesting. Yumiko Wada is asking, what would be a good advice for those who are depressed from Chinese medicine perspective? So basically, someone's depressed. How can you use Chinese medicine to help this person?
Well, the most common cause for depression from a Chinese medicine perspective is liver qi stagnation. So basically what it means is that, you want to get from point A to point B, but you get stuck and you don't see any way to get unstuck. You don't see any way to overcome that problem, right? So this is very obvious. This is very typical for liver qi. A different flavor of this could be, lack of fire. And that kind of depression has a feeling or a flavor of, there's nothing that cheers me up. There's no joy in it. There's no sparkle in it. Again, depression can have, and these are just the two most common ones. We would have to see where that comes from, because, for example, from my experience, both kinds of depression have deep roots in the family, in the childhood, in the upbringing, in the relationships, in the relationship with the mother, the father. So again, to treat just the symptom, the depression is just a symptom. It's the tip of the iceberg. What has caused it is individual. Yeah, if we can have 10 people suffering from depression, they may have 10 different approaches, 10 different treatments, because we don't treat the disease, we treat the person.
Correct. Yeah, so you got to treat the root cause of it. All right. Yeah. So here's another question. My grandparents, to improve their immunity, grandma has weak heart muscles. What do you think about
I think the exercises that I just gave are very good for that. And by the way, the breathing and this chest thumping exercise will help the heart as well, not only the lungs. Yeah.
Right. That's good. So they can just follow that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So here's a probably more technical question. It's got a long one. For a strong Keng monkey, which is Keng Shen, going to rooster sin metal, as this strengthens metal, does this put my lungs at risk? And what can I do through acupuncture? Shall I use acupuncture points to reduce and stimulate the fire points, or the lung meridians to reduce it a little bit? Your former student. Oh, okay.
I know, Florin, yes.
Right. So that's a technical question.
Yes. Well, as we know from Patsu, when an element is too strong or too weak, it's equally imbalanced. Yeah. So from the acupuncture point of view, we would need to treat it. Yeah. So you can use that. Again, some common field between acupuncture and Patsu, we know that the metal element needs fire to function properly. So when we see that such a patient doesn't have enough fire or doesn't have healthy fire, yes, we do need to use fire points on the lungs and colon for that. But again, this would be seen having the bigger picture of the patient in mind. I cannot answer that accurately. Yes, that's a definite yes, because there are various pieces of information that I don't have. But as a principle, yes, you could use both.
Right. That's good. Good. Thank you for that sharing. So let's see if they take one more question. Oh, there it is. Let's see this one. Oops. Yeah. What's this? Polycystic kidney disease has no cure and leads to kidney and liver failure. Scientists try keto diet, but doctor says keto diet harms the heart. What is your advice?
Yes. Polycystic kidney disease is translated into Chinese medicine as a deficiency of essence. There is this kind of energy which is a bit more special because kidneys have to do with early heaven. Yeah, they're like the door between early heaven and late heaven, and kidneys are the organs that store the energy that we have inherited from our ancestors, from our parents. So what is special about essence is that it's the least likely to be replenished. It's the most difficult to be replenished. So this is some of the biggest difficulties that we can come across in our practice. Having said that, I have had patients with polycystic kidney disease, and yes, the explanation for it hitting the liver is because if you have a yin deficiency in the kidneys, it will generate a yin deficiency in the liver, for those of you who are technically minded. But when it comes to what you can do, what has been helpful to my patients suffering from kidney essence deficiency is just pay special attention to health. That's one thing. And secondly, all energy systems, I can speak mostly about acupuncture, but I'm practicing other systems as well. All of them can help replenish the kidney energy. Just expect that the evolution, the improvement will be 10, 15 times slower, because this kind of energy is very much constitutional. It's not easy to influence like the others.
Right. Good. So now there's I want to talk a little bit about your revolutionizing health workshop or class that you're actually going to conduct as part of the Team Joey Up special classes that's happening in June 16th to the 20th. This is your very, very special program. Can you tell us what are they going to learn in this program?
Well, I've studied Chinese medicine and Bazi and Feng Shui and Qigong, and my conclusion was that whichever one you approach, the message will actually be the same. So if you look at a Bazi chart, you will see that the lesson, the advice, is the same that you would give him if you see him from a Chinese medicine perspective. And then the Bazi kind of resonates with the Feng Shui, so that there will be a convergence of all. So basically what I do in this program is I share my knowledge of how we use these branches to understand health and to actually do something about it. So basically at the end of this program, people will be able to understand why they're suffering from various things, where their imbalances lie, how they can be seen through whatever, even though I've mentioned, parts of Feng Shui, Qigong, Chinese medicine, you may not even need anyone, because there are some very simple ideas, just like, for example, the ones that I've shared with you today, which don't require any pre-existing knowledge or anything. But if you do know Bazi or Feng Shui or Qigong or Chinese medicine, you will get to understand it more. So you will be able to add this health layer on top of it, and you will also have people will also have clear exercises, clear practices that they can do, they can perform.
This is a practical sort of class, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be so technical that they need a lot of parts and knowledge or
no.
So you will be able to bring someone who has just a general interest in health and some problems they want to fix, and you can take them deeper. In a nutshell, that's what you can do in 3 days, right?
Yes.
So now the thing is, they're going to be asking a lot of questions about their own chart or their own life. Would they be able to take home some exercises, or maybe even some form of prescribed treatment if they learn with you this couple of days?
Yes, we have a special bonus for those people who enroll now. The special bonus is that I'm going to do, on top of the program, which has its own structure, a video on how you can use acupuncture channels in a very simple home applied way. So it's not going into too much detail, but it goes into enough detail so that it allows you to use the acupuncture channels, which I'm going to demonstrate, so that people can have a secondary way of interacting with the energy. The primary way is that there will be specific exercises shared during the class, and also, this is a 5-day program. At the end of each day, so from June 16th to June 20th, after the teaching, after the actual class, there will be a Q&A on every day. So people will be able to, log in, ask me questions and all that. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I think this is the first time we're actually going to do like a full-scale health program on metaphysics, and you are one of the pioneers who are actually going to do it. And I just want everyone here to know, I don't normally invite people to do a program unless they're good. And as you can see and hear, Dr. Octavian is very good at what he does, and more importantly, he knows how to teach it. Because some people can be really good at practicing something. I've met so many great practitioners, but they can't teach. So and being able to transmit knowledge and to someone else and make them understand is a true gift. So thank you so much, Dr. Octavian. For everyone who wants to register for this program, please get in touch with Team Joey Yap. If you're on this Facebook group right now where you're watching, just let us know, right, that you're interested in this, or contact the admin. They will give you all the registration details. And if you're watching on YouTube, just let us know that you're interested. You put it on the comment section or contact the admin. We will send you all the details that are necessary. And his program, this 5 days, would revolutionize your health. So thank you so much, Dr. Octavian, for your time today.
Thank you very much.
I think you have many fans now, who listen to this interview. So please go ahead and click on the share button. If you're watching this right now, click on the share button to share this very important health message to every one of your friends. And do remember to subscribe for the Facebook channel as well as the YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you once again to Dr. Octavian.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.